Good afternoon from NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. I am Josh Byerly. It has been quite the day for both NASA and Orbital Sciences. We're going to be taking a look at all this morning's activities as Cygnus was successfully installed on the International Space Station. Joining me here in Houston is NASA Flight Director Holly Riding. She was there in Mission Control as the activities took place. We are also joined from NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C. by Alan Lindemoyer, NASA's Commercial Crew and Cargo Program Manager, as well as Frank Culberson, Executive Vice President of Orbital Sciences. We're going to start here in Houston with Holly, then we'll take some. We'll go to D.C. and talk with Alan and Frank, and then we'll take some questions. And we'll get started with Holly.
All right. Well, thank you, Josh. It's certainly a great day to fly in space. Today, the Cygnus vehicle successfully rendezvoused and was captured and berthed to the International Space Station. So starting about 2 a.m. local time here in Houston, joint operations, which is the activity where the mission control team here in Houston, the mission control team in Dulles, Virginia, at Orbital responsible for this Cygnus, and also our colleagues at JAXA who participate in the Cygnus rendezvous with part of the communication system, begin to work together as a team in order to get Cygnus to the space station. So that activity started about 2 a.m. local Houston time, and then a series of maneuvers were completed as Cygnus moved from below the space station up to a point where the robotic arm could reach out and capture Cygnus at the Node 2 nadir, so just underneath the Node 2 module. And that activity occurred at 6 a.m. local time, just a few minutes earlier than the team had planned it. So we're certainly excited, really thrilled for our colleagues at the Orbital Sciences Corporation and all of the folks in Mission Control D, Mission Control Dulles, that we were able to work with today very successfully. Our crew, Luca Parmitano, Karen Nyberg, acted as our robotic arm operators, with Luca driving the arm to reach out and capture the Cygnus, a near flawless activity. After that, the Cygnus was maneuvered again by the robotic arm to the common berthing mechanism and attached to the space station. As we speak, the crew has completed the leak checks between the Cygnus vehicle and the space station, with plans to ingress, go into the Cygnus tomorrow morning about 4:55, almost 5 a.m. local Houston time. So a wonderful day to fly in space. First time we've done that jointly with our colleagues at the Orbital Sciences Corporation. And so congratulations to the entire Cygnus team. Back to you, Josh.
Okay, let's go to NASA headquarters in Washington, D.C., where Alan and Frank are standing by, and let's hear from each one of them.
Well, thank you, Josh. Couldn't be happier to be here today for the day we've waited for. And I just want to say congratulations, Frank, for the absolutely flawless mission that was executed this morning with the rendezvous and the berthing of the new Cygnus to the space station. It was just beautiful.
Great teamwork. Thanks.
Thank you to the entire Orbital team. I had the privilege to be working with Orbital since the beginning of our partnership, and I have seen this team in action from the beginning through all our design reviews, the requirements reviews, the preliminary design, the critical design, and all the challenges that have come up throughout the years. And I can tell you that Orbital has addressed these challenges in such a professional, skilled, and with such expertise over the years. And culminating today with this mission is just a real testament to the capabilities of your team, especially with the events over the last week. It was just a very, very impressive job by the entire Orbital team. And then working so closely with the NASA team. I just couldn't be happier and more proud of how that worked. We started the program with 3 goals. One was to place strategic investments to kickstart the commercial space industry. not knowing if anything would actually emerge from that. But we knew that we needed to place these investments to remove the significant barriers to entry in such a tough industry. Our second goal was to see the development of new commercial space transportations at lower cost that could provide safe, reliable, and cost-effective access to low Earth orbit and the International Space Station. And the third was to become a customer for these services once they emerged. I think we can say today conclusively that we've added another partner to the list that helped us achieve these goals 100%. We now have 2 new launch vehicles, 2 new state-of-the-art autonomous spacecraft capable of carrying cargo to manned destinations, human destinations in space, and returning with such critical science and experiments that we need to continue our exploration. 2 new launch pads, 2 new mission controls, and the entire infrastructure to support these new systems. So I think it was a great day, culminating with the successes of the program in meeting those goals. So let me give thanks to my team who worked so hard back in Houston, the International Space Station, all the people at NASA across all the centers. We've reached back over the years to the folks at most all the centers to provide help when Orbital asked for it, or when our team needed a little expertise to do some of our reviews. Thank you to MOD and Courtney, who did such a great job this morning. Of course, Karen and Luca. It was just picture perfect today. Thank you to Charlie and all the NASA leadership who were so patient and believed and provided the support needed, and of course the administration and the Congress who stood with us all these years to help make this such a success. Frank brought us out this morning when we were waiting for the berthing to the top of the orbital building, and it was a beautiful, crystal clear dawn this morning, and we saw the most beautiful pass of the space station flying overhead along with Cygnus, and it became brighter and brighter, and it was the brightest object in the star this morning, and when it came right overhead, it flashed even brighter as sort of a signal to us saying, we're ready to do this. It really impressed on me how important it is to provide this capability so that we can continue doing that research that's so important to keep us exploring in space. It is critically important, Frank, the system that you've provided for us. It is happy to see that this is the beginning and the continuation of a new era in space. So thank you very much, and congratulations to the entire team.
Thanks a lot, Alan. And just to continue on what you're saying, you mentioned that the space station is inspiring people to continue the experiments up there. And I want to just point out that this would not have been done without the students and professionals in this country that weren't inspired to go into science, technology, engineering, and math. What you saw today was the product of American education system, and the students, the men and women that are willing to keep going with math when it gets hard, and who are willing to do these kind of jobs that take a lot of patience and a lot of expertise, and some hair pulling and some heartache sometimes, like the last week. But these are the people that will continue to lead this country in technology and continue to lead the world, we hope, in exploration as we continue to support the International Space Station. I could speak for a long time this morning to talk about what's been accomplished and to thank all the people that are involved. It's very difficult to mention everybody. I certainly want to thank Alan and his team, especially Bruce Manners and Kevin Meehan, for all the support they've given us in the long hours. This has been a great public-private partnership, and NASA's investment and interest in this has kept us going. We have a big incentive ahead of us, and that's to execute the cargo resupply service contract, which will be coming. But today, we delivered more cargo on a commercial basis than has ever been delivered to the space station, 700 kilograms. And I know the crew is going to be very happy when they get the hatch open and get a chance to see all the things that are in there, and obviously the things that will keep their mission going. We have a lot of people at Orbital that worked very hard for 5 years or more and worked even harder in the last week to resolve all the issues that needed to be resolved before we completed this activity. It has been a great team effort from the day the Antares launched and certainly that team did a fantastic job of getting us into orbit until today when the people who were really important in finishing this job, the crew, got a hold of it and brought it on board the space station. I want to thank Luca and Karen and the rest of the crew for the great job they did. You can see in the picture here the Cygnus, the spaceship G. David Lowe, is attached to the space station. The crew will continue all the operations to make sure it's securely attached through the remainder of their workday. And then my understanding is that tomorrow they will open the hatch and do the activities required to begin unloading it. Also, like Alan, I want to thank all of the NASA team, the International Space Station program at Johnson Space Center, and the people who came to work with us as we worked through the issues. Our international partners who had to evaluate what we were doing and make sure that they were comfortable that the approach, the grapple, the berthing were all going to be safe for the station and for their crew members. And, of course, JAXA, who provided a great deal of cooperation and coordination in the proximity system that allowed us to continue the approach. Our subcontractors who provided great hardware for us. Everything worked as advertised. And then, of course, our team that did a fantastic job in mission control and in the back rooms to control this mission, to operate it, and to get through the day. But we're not done. We're going to have to continue monitoring the systems and stay on orbit at least through October 22nd, and then detach from the station and do our deorbit. And then in about 6 weeks, we'll be launching again. And we're really looking forward to that opportunity to carry even more cargo to the station. We'll be able to carry approximately 1.5 to 2 tons of cargo each mission for the next 3 missions, and then we'll go up to over 2.5 tons on each mission, beginning with number 4, all the way through the end of the contract. And we know and understand and accept the responsibility. This is critical to the continuation of the station and the continuation of U.S. leadership in space, as well as an international partnership that I think is a shining example of how nations can work together when they have the ability to let their engineers, their scientists, their operators, and their professionals work together and get politics out of the way. This has been an example of patience, an example of excellent troubleshooting, especially in the last week, but throughout the program. And you have to be patient if you want to see good things happen. We started this program at Orbital over 5 years ago. Antares was begun before that. And it's been hard for many people, particularly in the management chain and in our investors and everywhere else, to be patient that this would work out. But sometimes it just takes that amount to get that happen. It took us a long time to get space station built. It took a long time for shuttle to be developed. It's taking a long time for the next steps. But in the end, it is worth it, because this is how we continue to explore our universe, to explore the solar system, and how we also inspire the next generations. If they don't have something like this to look forward to, they're going to drift off into other areas. And if we don't keep them involved in STEM, in engineering challenges, in the technology that's available out here, we're going to lose again our leadership. The future is bright, I think, for this partnership and for this relationship. We're looking forward to many more opportunities. And I have to relate to you what I heard many times this morning from a team that was very excited, very tired, and just thrilled to be where they were. But many of them who had worked on other systems, other spacecraft, other launch vehicles, and at other places came up to me and said, "This is different. This is really amazing, and I'm so happy to be a part of this." And those of us who've been in human spaceflight a while know what they're talking about. And now we have a whole other group of people that understand how exciting it is to be a part of this and to take one spacecraft and attach it to another that's got human beings inside it, and to continue to build on it and continue to show that these things can be done when everybody works together and we put our mind to it. We got a whole new set of people that are committed to supporting this. And we had a bunch of kids in the auditorium this morning at Orbital, family members and friends, to watch what was going on, and a lot of smiling faces, even at that early hour, who I think were very proud to be a part of this historical moment. So on behalf of David Thompson, our CEO, and our entire leadership team, I want to thank NASA for the opportunity. I want to thank you for the great cooperation and collaboration, and I especially want to thank my team back at Orbital. I just happen to be the guy lucky enough to be sitting here and talking about it, but they are the ones who really made it happen, and I am so proud of every one of them. Thank you.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you, Alan and Frank. Let's take some questions now here in Houston first. Robert?
Hi, Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. The question for Alan, given your description that this morning's events were flawless, where does NASA stand in terms of giving the official go to Orbital to proceed preparing for the first CRS flight? Do you need to wait for the end of this mission, or are they good to go now?
No, they're good to go. Station's got a spot ready for them in December, and Orbital's working hard to get ready for that. We've got the cargo, getting the cargo together, getting ready to ship it out to Wallops, and they're good to go. They've got a demonstrated system that certainly can deliver, and there's a bit more to go to make sure we have a safe departure and reentry. But there will be no delays proceeding toward that next mission.
Great. And for Holly or Frank, given the delay, the week delay to getting to station, are you still planning an October 22nd departure? And if you are, how does that affect the crew time in terms of unpacking? Are they under any additional pressure?
Well, you pointed at me, so maybe I should answer. Holly will probably elaborate, but my understanding is that the crew has plenty of time to unload. It's a fairly small load compared to our maximum load, about half or less. So they should be able to make that happen and then load the disposal cargo prior to that date. We'll leave whenever NASA says they'd like for us to vacate the port, but my understanding is that the 3 weeks should be sufficient.
And I'll follow along with what Frank said. 3 weeks we believe is sufficient. The cargo is not completely full, as it will be in future flights. And so right now we are still officially planning the October 22nd release, as was planned pre-launch.
Okay, is that it, Robert? Okay, let's go to the phone lines. James Dean with Florida Today, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Josh. Alan, how much of a relief is it for NASA to have two systems proven now?
Well, it's a tremendous relief. It's such a feeling of pride and accomplishment to see how well the partnership worked together. That resulted in two very successful, very complicated spacecraft systems. It's certainly a relief, and something we're ready to celebrate and be proud of for years to come.
Thanks. I was curious what we might expect to see differently on the first contracted flight in terms of like the nominal duration of the flight until rendezvous, for example. Will that be shorter or about the same? And I was also just curious for if anyone would like to respond. I was curious, just seeing the vehicle come up that looks so much like an MPLM, if you felt any sort of link to the shuttle program that, you know, had a capability you're helping to replace now.
Well, to answer the first part of your question, our intent is to rendezvous and be berthed in about half the time that it took for this one, 2 to 3 days. We'll work the schedule out with NASA, but we learned a lot on this one. Part of what we had to do this time was some demonstration maneuvers that ensured that we really could abort, we could hold, we could control the vehicle really to NASA's satisfaction, and that took some time during the entire few days of approach and rendezvous. But so we won't have to do that again, and hopefully we won't have to do another racetrack around the station. So we should be able to get there in 2 to 3 days. And the other part of the question was, again?
Thanks. I just, you know, watching the vehicle approach and knowing the heritage to the MPLM, just wondered if you, Mr. Culbertson, or anyone on the NASA side was kind of appreciating a link to the shuttle program past that you're helping to now replace with this cargo capability.
Well, having watched a lot of those from both sides, really, but from a lot of different perspectives, and watching the shuttle come aboard during assembly of the station in the early days, and rendezvousing and docking with the Mir, there certainly was a feeling of deja vu. But I have to tell you, it was a little bit like looking at some of the pictures I used to see in the hallways of both JAXA and ESA when they were developing their modules, and they tended to show pictures of them flying in space, in orbit, without the shuttle around them. And I thought, that's really interesting. How are they going to do that? And now we've got a module that looks a lot like both of those, rendezvousing and being attached to the station. So there is a little bit of deja vu on that. I have to say also that one of the things that we were really happy about was the fact that we had a number of scientific experiments, including some student experiments on this mission. And that's a big part of the mission of the space station. And so we're happy to take food and clothing and all, but we want to make sure that we're also able to provide the science and the research that can be accomplished on the station.
Okay, James, is that it?
Yep, thanks. Congratulations.
All right. Let's go to Doug. Is it Doug Moaning with TMC Net? Did I get that right?
Doug Moaning with TMC Net, correct. One question for each. Alan, my question to you is, what's your level of confidence for lessons learned on this program as applied to commercial crew? And my question to Frank would be, you indicated next flight rendezvous will be 2 to 3 days. Do you ultimately hope to get a ground-to-station rendezvous within like 6 hours, as we have with Progress and the other commercial provider?
You're on.
Right. Well, certainly learned a lot of lessons. This was an experiment of a new way of doing business for NASA in this type of partnership. I think one of the keys was to provide maximum flexibility to the partners so that they could optimize their design, optimize their approach with minimum requirements. So it was important for us to talk about the needs and interests and goals for the program, but let the details and all the specifics be traded within the partner and within the company, so that we could give them the flexibility so that there could be innovations and resulting in lower costs and increased reliability. That was fairly easy to do with the cargo missions because the interfaces to the space station are so well defined, and we did have flexibility in the total amount of cargo to be delivered and returned, and some flexibility in the flight rate and the visits to the space station. So in that sense, I think flexibility is important, except where it's regarding the safety of the crew and protection of the space station. I mean, we were firm with those requirements for those interfaces, but everything else we were able to be quite flexible, and I think that's a really important lesson. Now, moving on to the crew program, we've shared a lot of information with the crew program. They started the program with this type of public-private partnerships under the Space Act agreements, and I think that's worked out very well. But again, this emphasis on safety is critical, and NASA has learned many, many hard lessons over the years where those requirements become very important to communicate, convey, and to verify. So I think it's in the same spirit. Be flexible where we can to allow for innovation, but be very diligent in our lessons learned in our history to make sure that we're supporting the development of systems that are safe and reliable.
And if I could add to that just a little bit, and Alan is referring to some very valuable lessons we've learned along the way in establishing these relationships. I think that really became paramount this week, the fact that we had some time to work through a lot of issues in the past. But that really didn't match the challenge of dealing with a real-time flight problem that you had to solve before you could actually deliver the cargo. As you know, this is a precursor to the cargo resupply services contract that we have with NASA. But I have to say that even though we operated this as if it were a service, this was still part of the Space Act agreement and was a demonstration. But the business side never really came into play amongst the technical teams. Now, obviously, that's something we have to be concerned about as a company, but that's something you'll worry about later. What we did was establish a relationship between NASA and orbital teams that I think will allow us to take care of any challenging problems in the future. A lot of what we learned, for example, during the Shuttle Mir program was about relationships, not just about technology, hardware, and operations. And that's been applied on the International Space Station. This week was challenging in that same way, where NASA gave us the opportunity for our team, led by Frank DeMauro and Jim Nicholson, to work through the technical issues we were trying to solve, do it in a way that made sense to us, and then give us their feedback without dictating how it had to be done. And that, I think, gave our team a lot of confidence that NASA felt like we knew what we were doing, and makes a huge difference going forward. And I really appreciate that level of trust. And I know that the team led by Kenny Todd down in Houston and Mike Suffredini had to work carefully with the international partners to make sure they also understood that and saw that. And having been in the station program many years ago, I can see that this is a change. This is different. And this is laying the groundwork for all commercial endeavors going forward, Alan and everybody else. And I think that commercial crew will benefit from having seen the NASA team work with a company on challenges, because they're going to have them too. This is space flight, and that's what happens. As to the question of how quickly can we rendezvous, I have in fact challenged the team to come up with a one-day rendezvous plan. We think that that's beneficial to all concerned, and we really want to get particularly the powered payloads and the important research that needs to get to the station quickly. We want to get it there as soon as we can, and so being able to rendezvous in one day is a real important feature we would like to add to our quiver, and so we're going to be working on that over the next few missions.
Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Doug, did you have another question? Okay, we're going to wrap up our briefing for today. We thank you for joining us. Of course, for all the latest, just log on to nasa.gov/station. You can also watch Space Station live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Central Time, 11 a.m. Eastern Time for coverage of the hatch opening, which, like Holly said, will take place at 4:55 a.m. Central Time or 5:55 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, thank you for joining us. Congratulations to both the NASA team and the orbital team, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.